Again, everybody, I'm Marlin Bohling with you, and welcome back to the Comstock channel. Always glad to visit with you, and just a reminder, make sure that you like this video, and also be sure to subscribe to it and share it with your friends and relatives. And we love to get this information out to as many as we can. Always look forward to talking with you, and today it's kind of a treat because we're going to take an early look at the WASDE report that will be coming out tomorrow at noon Eastern Time, 11 o'clock Central Time, and I'm going to welcome in some high-powered help today. We have Justin McKinney with us today. He is with Comstock Investments, and also, well, the president of Comstock Investments. We have Matthew Kruse with us, and it's a pleasure to have both of you guys with us. Justin, let me ask you first here as we reflect on what USDA may do tomorrow. Now, we're looking at the February report. From what I can gather, usually the February report is kind of a yawner, but maybe it's a little different this year. What do you think here?
Well, historically, it has been a yawner. I think for the majority of the growers and producers sitting on unpriced grain this year, we're hoping it's not a yawner. Looking forward here, we'll probably dive into that in a second here on the corn and bean stocks, but I think we're going to need to see if for positive price action, we're going to need to see some sort of significant adjustment on the South American soybean production.
Yeah, we had a bit of a cratering in the grain markets here today. I was surprised to see that much selling ahead of a major report like this coming out tomorrow. In my mind, Justin, when I look at a move like that, does that make it hard for a report to be bearish enough to keep the bearish momentum going?
Well, that's a very good point. And so many bear markets are ended by bearish reports. So is it this one? Do we chop water into the Acreage report into March? Time will tell. It's possible. We also did take out those weekly lows on the March corn today. We didn't crush significantly below that. I thought for sure once we went down and tested that, I kind of held my breath thinking, here we go, right? But we weren't able to push it significantly lower ahead of the report. So maybe we found enough selling for now.
And the way it is right now, from what I understand, the large funds are already pretty heavily net short, aren't they, in the grain?
But yeah, significantly net short. But again, that doesn't mean they can't get shorter. We saw, heavy net shorts in the wheat market all last summer. We did see some covering at times, but just because they hit a record or a 3-year record or whatever doesn't mean they're going to necessarily stop there.
Well, from what I hear from talking with traders all over the country, it seems like the consensus is most people are going to be watching for USDA to change their production numbers for Brazil and Argentina. Matthew, you just got back from our annual tour to Brazil. You were there for a couple of weeks, and I wondered, you might have some good insight on this. Do you think USDA will dare to lower their estimate enough to actually be accurate with what some in the trade, such as yourself, are saying they may need to do?
Probably not, to be honest. I think everyone's expecting them to reduce it a little bit. I think we talked about it in our report, maybe 4 or 5 million metric tons. That would get them down to like 152 to 153. So I think the market kind of has that dialed in. And so if they were to get down to that level or even below it, maybe that would begin to provide some support for us. But, I think most of the trade is probably dialed in closer to 150. We're coming in a little bit less than that. But I don't know that we're going to see the full extent to what's going on in Brazil's harvest until probably at least May, or at least have the USDA come out with what's going on in Brazil until at least May. So it's just going to be a pretty big lag there. So, yeah, I don't know that in terms of the U.S. grain ending stocks that there's going to be any major movers in this report. Just some minor adjustments to demand. But I think everyone's looking at what are they going to do with Brazil's crop size, and I don't know that we're hopeful, I guess, but I don't know that judging from history, I don't know that we're going to get a much of a huge surprise from the USDA. They've just consistently been taking a lot longer to reduce their their estimates and playing catch up to a lot of the private estimates.
You know, I had a chance to visit with you and several of the people that were on that tour, and it's fascinating to hear them share their experience with what they found. And I've been picking up that it seems like whoever planted early in Brazil had the most crop damage, and the ones that planted later, a lot of times, by and large, escaped the damage. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's how it worked this year. And I think historically, when they've had more adequate rainfall, when they had a La Nina, they got rain earlier in the season, and so some of them plant in Mato Grosso plant as early as mid-September, and they like to do that because that not only gives them a full soybean crop, but gives them almost a full corn crop behind that. And so the more you delay that soybean crop planting, you're kind of shortening or hurting the time frame for the safrinha crop, which follows it. And so, yeah, and that's worked out in the past. Last year worked out perfectly, and so that was fresh in everybody's minds. And so then they went ahead and let's do it again this time. And then with El Nino, it didn't work out this year. It was just very dry, and so all of the early harvest yield reports are terrible. I think it will get better as time goes on, but at what point, if you get through, there are a lot of a lot of abandoned fields that we've heard about. We talked to farmers that ran the combine through. We got 10 bushels per acre, and which they probably regretted running the combine through at that point. And so it'll get better, but it's I think they're a little bit in uncharted waters a little bit where this is probably Mato Grosso's worst season ever in their 40 plus year history. And so I think people it's hard for them to fathom how bad it actually could get or is right now. That's my impression. But yeah, they're starting out with the worst yields for sure.
Well, with all the late rainfall that we have received in Brazil here the last 3 or 4 weeks, let's say, does that bode pretty well, though, for that safrinha crop? I mean, are we looking at our ending stocks getting even bigger now?
Well, I think the crop is going in good conditions right now, and it's, this early February is still within the ideal time frame. However, they're expected to have cut a lot of acres because of some of the delayed planting issues with the soybeans, and now they have, prices that are underwater right now. They're going in planting knowing that, okay, it's going to be pretty hard just to even break even, and it might be a money losing factor. And so they're trying to cut costs as much as possible. And that usually means cutting fertilizer, and you cut fertilizer, you're probably going to see an impact to yield. And so while in terms of weather, I think the conditions are good, I think due to just cutting acres and cutting some of that fertilizer, you're looking more closer to 115 million metric ton crop in Brazil this season.
Well, with that in mind, and if we're back to an El Nino, La Nina neutral status in the U.S. this year, we could be looking at pretty good production here this year. And Justin, I'll go back to you. If that's the case, is there a danger that the farmers are just horrifically undersold this year so far?
So far, that seems to be the case. And the numbers would say that depending on what we come up with for planted acres, it seems there's some people touting 90 million planted acres coming at the end of March. It feels like that's a low number by 1 to 2 million acres. So it could be that way, but I think at the current time, with all the risk in South America, most of the people are content hanging on and seeing what the spring planting season brings.
Matthew, is there a chance that the Brazilian real is going to be gaining in the currency exchange rate against the U.S. dollar moving forward or not?
It's possible. It hasn't done too much lately. I feel like it's been pretty stable. Their economy in the last 6 to 12 months has been, I think, improving, and inflation has been coming down. Jobs, new jobs, employment has been improving, and so I think that probably helps to buoy their currency quite a bit. So I can't look there to see anything that's going to change in the short term.
Okay, I want to veer off track here just a little bit here. Justin, I had heard from you earlier today about the situation, and it seems to be a growing topic. It started out as rumors, but now we're hearing more and more about it. And that's the fact that the breeding cows, breeding heifers from last year in the midst of that heat and the drought seems like we are really starting to see problems with that, with a lot of open heifers, open cattle out there this year. And it sounds like it's starting to be fairly extreme. And I don't even know if it's isolated to one geographic region. What do you hear about that now?
That's the thing, Marlin. I talked to a guy who has ranches in Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana today earlier, and no specific numbers, but he had said his heifers were a train wreck, and those were in Montana. Without putting percentages on, talked to another client who has cows in North Dakota, and I just threw out that 30% number, and there was a pause and said, or higher. This is really the start of something. It's scary for me as a cattle feeder, what feeder cattle are going to be this fall, and what surprises could lay in the inventory report come at the end, or in June. So end of June, July. So it's concerning, and I'm wondering when we get some traction on that story moving forward. Have you heard anything? I know you've talked to some people.
I have just heard some rumblings about it, and nobody's able to put their finger on a definite percentage. I guess I would encourage anybody out there watching this video or sharing this video to get back with you guys, because I know we're all really curious about it. I know I talked with Daryl Peel the other day at Oklahoma State University, and he was very curious about it too. He was the same way. He said, I've been hearing a lot about it. He said, I don't have anything in concrete, for numbers yet, but he's very interested to learn more about it. And if we're just hearing anecdotal stories, I think we here at Comstock would like to get some kind of hard data on that. If anybody has some numbers, some percentages out there that are maybe vet certified, I think it would really be great to let our staff know so we can let everybody else know. That could have a huge impact on the market moving forward.
I mean, ultimately, it's still what you can sell the calf for and the fat cattle, right, when 2025 comes around. So I kind of checked my bullish enthusiasm based on all the factors that you guys have talked about with the economy and things like that. But it is something that if we could get a handle on that sooner than later, boy, that sure could be pretty helpful.
The other day saying that they thought we were well into rebuilding the herd now. I have a hard time believing that if this is true.
That, and I have yet to find anybody that's rebuilding the herd. I mean, talk to them on the phone or anywhere.
No, I was just going to say, it seems the drought and conditions have been improving. Do you think that might be the catalyst that kind of gets things going on that front, increasing the herd?
Well, it always is. I mean, if the hay stocks and the pasture conditions, but if you peel back the onion at the average age of these ranchers at all-time record highs, it would sure be tough if I was a rancher to put heifers back in the breeding cycle when you're at the end of your career or later in life, and the potential to sell effectively $9 corn or whatever. Well, that would be pretty tough for me. I don't know what your thoughts on that, Marlin, are.
Well, I know I've always heard numerous times in the past that sometimes it's better to walk the corn off of the farm than to haul it in a truck. And maybe that's going to be the case now. So I want to thank you guys for helping us out here and talking as we get ready for the WASDE report coming out tomorrow. Just a reminder, after this report comes out, I'm going to be talking with Dan Mandernock of the Comstock channel, and we're going to be talking about, after the report comes out, what the fallout is, how the market is reacting to it, and what kind of market signals we'll pick up once that data is released. And then all eyes will be into March, I guess, when we get our first planted acreage numbers. And of course, we're going to be absorbing the Ag Outlook conference coming up in Washington this month, too. So again, thank you guys. And I would encourage everybody to get back with our staff here If you have some information about those open heifers or open cattle out there and some numbers to attach to it, be sure and let us know here on the Comstock channel. Appreciate you joining us. For Justin McKinney and Matthew Kruse, I'm Marlin Bohling. See you next time on the Comstock channel. Thanks for joining us on our Comstock YouTube channel. Don't forget you can also find us on Facebook and TikTok as well.